What's up, YouTube? What's up, Extreme Gainz fam? I'm Chuck. This is Extreme Gainz. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is or ever will be financial advice. Please do not take it as such. Good morning, y'all. It is Sunday, January 9th, 2022. This is the AMC update preparation video that I do on Sundays to get us prepared and get our minds wrapped around where we're at and review where we've been leading into the week ahead and beyond. I want to first take a look at the micro movement here on your left on the 5-minute chart showing movement through Thursday of last week and Friday. If you follow or sub, you know that I have created and coined this method called the box top method, and we have looked at that, talked about that. We called it out Thursday. I'm sorry. We sensed this coming, and I know I did when I talked about how compressed the movements were, and I was having trouble identifying on the micro time frames the support levels for the box top method, right? So then this ended up occurring, and since then they pulled us back. We ended the day Friday still green, 2.36%. Residual from that push up and pullback. But as you look at it here, you can see another box top was formed, and we talked about this on Friday. It pulled back down and broke all three support levels like always. You pull the third up after the W, it blew up into another box top, back down through all three support levels, another W, and I called Friday afternoon and said if we didn't blow up past the previous box top high, to indicate a reversal on the micro movement, that we would just dissolve into after hours, and that's what we ended up doing. Okay, so I'll be tracking this in the morning, pre-market, have a better idea, like always, prior to opening, after I see that movement, as to whether or not this is a dissolved box top and a continued downside, or if it portrays itself in a different way that would indicate something upside going into market open. When the live stream starts at 9 a.m., we'll talk about it, we'll review it, we'll take a look, and see where we're at. So on your right is the mega macro perspective, right? I just want you to take a look at where it's at. Again, I'm not going to deep dive into all this. I already have in previous videos, but we're in this giant macro megaphone. This is the 7-year descending wedge that started when AMC IPO'd in December of 2013 to where we're currently at now. I believe we're in an ascending now, another one, an inverted one from the support here, megaphone structure that's housing and encasing the movements of the previous year of 2021. And both run-ups and consolidations now, right? Well, consolidation, this one's been a downtrend into another descending wedge, which in the one macro perspective and macro thesis that I'm looking at in theory is that this may be a compressed version of this, and if that's so, we are in this bottom portion of it on support. So I have transposed that several times. We've talked about those movements. I'm going to show you that here in a minute as well. I just wanted you to have a generalized view of the entire movement so you see it really in perspective where we're at and where we've come from and how we got here, okay? With that being said, I've seen a lot of people talking and asking and sending messages about, breaking down and coming down here. Here's like lower than whatever, not 19, 18, lower than the gap fill. Let's put it that way. So here's the deal. Anything's possible, right? Anything is possible. If we were to break this megaphone support through the confluence area that we are currently sitting just above, the next thing we have is the gap fill area, which I'm going to zoom into in a minute. Right? If that gap fill area would not act as support, right, after it filled that gap and blast this thing back up, that then and only then would I give any merit or concern to anything in the immediate of it dropping down that far, right? I mean, if it came back down, I mean, if you took, for instance, we weren't in a megaphone, right? And a secondary, smaller one inside of this macro, that would indicate that this thing has hit resistance, hit support, hit resistance, hit support. And if it does that, it's literally into the negative. If it were to do that, it would be into the negative, right? I don't think that that's going to happen, right? So until then, until I see not only all of the supports that's sitting underneath where we're currently at right now break down, if we were to be drawn magnetically essentially to the gap fill area that is below where we're sitting currently, and that were not to act as support and blow this thing back up from that area, then and only then would I give merit to anything underneath that. That does not mean that I don't allow myself to look at this mega macro perspective and kind of see really where we're at. Like I said, where we've come from, how we've got here, and what it means, right? So, again, I keep that in the back of my head. You can see how it's done that, right, on a mega macro perspective. But like I said, until it does those things, I'm not going to give any merit to discussing that any more than what I've already done just now. So that's where I'm at on that subject. Now, when we look at when we zoom in, we look at the daily. And I talked about this here. This was a descending wedge fractal. This is the one scenario that I'm looking at for a macro projection, right? Based off of historical data points and historical movement. There's a box top descending wedge and a giant W in here. And I call it a double-double because there's a mini W here, a mini W here, and it's all a part of one giant W. So I call it a double-double. All right? We're essentially in that same kind of formation up here. Something else I want to point out before I get there is the megaphone, the interior megaphone, if you will, that I've put in here. It's support line that I've drawn in, right? And what I did was I kind of moved it a little bit. And I made it as if this was a fake down breakdown to the $1.91 area down here. And then we blew up, right? And we're inside of it to get these touch points and to put us at a touch point here where we just touched, okay? So with that said, that's why I just wanted to see why I put it there. Now, this is where we're at now, and this is the daily, right? This is the gap fill area. What's in between, the space in between these two lines is the gap fill area. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go to the 4 hour, and I want to show you because this is where it kind of really matters to me with the wick downs and the support lines for everything. All right, as you can see, there was a confluence here that was hit, right? Depending on where this touch, I mean, there's a confluence coming up here. So if this were to perform and display itself as the double-double and come back down here to finish that off something even before we were to blow up out of here, right? It would be at this confluence right here. I have the mid-sized, if you will, descending wedge support running here off the wicks, right? To kind of encompass all of it, so that it gives us room and gives me room to see all of these movements inside of these highlighted and outlined fractals that I'm showing you here, okay? And this is what I was talking about as far as going down any further, right? We have a confluence coming up right here from the megaphone support. So we have two supports lining themselves up and converging on one place right here, right? So I am potentially looking for this to be a potential move here in the future for us on AMC. If that were to break down, then we have the descending wedge, the mid-sized descending wedge support that it would have to break as well, right? Before it would hit the gap fill area. These are the reasons why I said all of this would have to take place before I would consider anything that would be, you know, from here down, okay? I'm not even going to consider that right now until all of these things happen. You can see what happened here when we had this confluence of two of these supports meeting and converging and price action touching it simultaneously. We got that bounce up, right? So I am potentially looking for that to do itself here again and provide something similar, if not up out of here, right? Whether it rejects there at the descending, the interior descending of this fractal, or it gets rejected from there, it's yet to be seen. Again, there's a lot that has to happen for all of this to kind of play itself out. But I wanted you to see that, right, and how that plays out. Now, taking that previous December 2020 double-double fractal and bringing it down here for comparison, I want you to see what that looks like. This is one of the mega macros that I'm tracking and have been tracking and talking about. I'm gonna pull this down here. Right there. All right. Man, I'm going to pull this in. Oh. Yeah, now I messed it all up, huh? There we go. Sheesh. I'm not good at these. I don't use this stuff. But I'm new to using this stuff, so bear with me. But anyways, you can see there kind of how it's portraying itself, right? It is following that still. This does indicate that exact thing essentially happening that I just talked about. Us getting that second part of the double, right? The double, and it's one big W. It's a double W inside of a W. Say that 3 times fast. All right. If it continues to follow this, this is what I'm looking for. Here's the confluence. We would get that parabolic bounce up out of there, right? Like I showed you. And this, therefore, not breaking down, us not coming down to the gap fill. And then we would go ahead and get a resemblance of a parabolic move up out of there, like the December 2020 previous fractal, the descending wedge macro that we were in, that I believe we're potentially replicating in a compressed fashion, okay? So one more time, I'll zoom in and let you see that and how it is. I mean, really looks good to me, to be honest. I mean, it is a little, this dip in on the previous one in 2020 was more exaggerated than what it is now. But as you can see, everything else is pretty much spot on. Okay? So that's one of the repeating algo fractals that I am looking at from a macro perspective. The other one comes from a... No. The other one comes from a theory that is kind of tied into this as well. Again, I've put videos out on it. The big brother, little brother theory with these fractals within the same mega fractal playing themselves out in a repetitive but alternating fashion. And that is big brother, right? They're in two. Now, let me go back a little bit. So I separated this entire movement from May, June till now into time blocks in which this entire movement plays out in a micro sense in these time frames over and over and over and over and over 6 different times in its entirety. And I separated those with vertical time markers. Ironically, they're exactly even, right? The time span in between each one of those time blocks is exactly even. And in that video, I explained how what observations I've made from doing that deep dive into the charting and research. And what I've seen was these time frames work together, right? They work in tandem in twos. So one of the time frames ended somewhere in here. The other one ended somewhere right in here at this blow up. So, but they work in tandems, and I was calling it big brother, little brother. But they're in an alternating fashion, right? We had these two here, which the second one working in tandem with the first one down to support, right? Then this here, I believe, will be the next one up here that we replicate, essentially something along those lines. But then this one here is replicating this literally almost to the T, right? And this is the bigger of the two movements. So I called it big brother, little brother, which therefore would mean this descending wedge is replicating this descending wedge, right? So that's something as well I've been tracking. Again, if you have not seen that video, go back and watch that one for sure. Watch that one. That one's really going to give you some really good perspective on this here, okay? Excuse me. All right. This is when we transpose this macro to macro under this theory's pretense and contents, and we pull this bugger down here, to have those match up, pull this out to where it matches up, you can see here what ends up happening, right? Now, I explained this in the video last week and in the live stream when we keep looking at this. You see this break down here, right? Which it has not done yet, okay? Let me click this and move this. You can see where it landed itself right here, right? In real time and in current time. But it does indicate that if it is following this, it could potentially still, in my opinion, break down to here right out of the gate this week, if that were the case. If not, you see what the other one is, right? We get this move up before coming back down to create the second portion of the double-double, which, let me point out, this is the exact same, right? A W inside of a big W, right? A double-double. So, and then again, this may not. This may have provided enough support, right? But we still may see something similar of the movements afterwards. This is more of a dissolving box stop movement after the fact, versus the December 2020 fractal is the parabolic movement after the double-double in that fractal comparison. However, what I want to point out is how this does, and I do need to bring this down a little bit more because I see that I'm not right there. This does bring us down to that gap fill area, just right to the top of it, right? And you can see here how this came down and it got to move up right here in the blue, and then it came back down. And I may not have this exactly right to portray that. It may be something like that, right? To where now we've gotten this move back up, and the next movement would be down to this gap fill area. I believe, myself, personally, that if we come this far down, close enough to this gap fill, it will fill, and it will be the rebound that we get on AMC from here to the descending wedge fractal resistance before coming back down and finishing off making this W. And you can see how this lines up as well, right, with the support of the mid macro descending wedge yellow support there. And again, rejection matches up perfectly with the micro inside of that descending wedge resistance. And again, resistance up here, just the levels are all matching up with that scenario when it's transposed onto here as well. Same as the December one as well, right? The current fractal outline that I have here and the current mid macro fractal outline that I have in the yellow of the descending wedge and the megaphone support are all levels that are lining up when taking both comparative fractals and overlaying them and transposing them onto current. It makes them relevant, right? So I think it's hard not to look at those things and consider them both at this time, right? I don't personally feel that taking one of them off the table right now is not only valid to do, but smart at this point, right? I think it gives us some really good insight as to historical data points and historical movements of AMC to use for comparing currently and to potentially project future price movement. So I've put those all into perspective as well as far as the thesis behind why I think they're relevant and why I think moving forward they could be giving us future price projections. Okay, so that's both of those. Now, when thinking about the total scenario, right, and the total thesis and the total concept behind the algorithm, I have presented as well a micro to macro comparison theory, to where micro actually, it's like a snake. Micro is the head and macro is the tail, and that is how this algorithm works. Where the head goes, the tail eventually follows, right? And I believe that micro is leading. So I've been on this mission and this search to find the micro area that surpassed macro and the point in which it did that, and then it starts showing, leading and showing and blazing a path for macro to then follow. I have been eyeballing this micro fractal here as potentially the one that we're in. I've done some more work on that. I'm not going to present all of it right now. I just want to give you a quick look at it to see where we're at in that, right? And I believe we are potentially right here in that scenario, right? Right here. So I will be tracking that as well with you in real time on the live streams and in the daily update videos. We'll be continuing to take a look at that. Again, I have some more DD that I've been doing according to this, but I'm not ready to put it all out yet. I have not tied it all together yet. I did release a video yesterday showing you a couple things in it, and when I have more, I'll do that as well. So other than that, that's what I got for this video. Those are the macro perspectives, the micro to macro picture I wanted to show you, and the potential macro fractals that I'm using to compare moving forward that I will be keeping a super close eye on in the future and in real time. If you haven't come by, I live stream Monday through Friday, market open to market close. Come by. It's growing exponentially. Great people in there. It's been really fun. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you wouldn't mind, leave a like on the video for me. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Follow my Twitter. All the links and everything are in the description of this video. And I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if I don't talk to you in the next video, I will see you guys at the live stream tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Enjoy your day, y'all. Later.